So yeah, it's getting about that time. We're a little we're 5 minutes in. I was just gonna maybe wait a couple more minutes and see if we could get the other two. I'm gonna check my email really quick and see if
Okay.
any, Xenia, we're having some technical issues with people receiving the invite, so I'm just gonna double check and see if anyone got in touch and said that they were having issues. Hold on one second.
Okay, no problem.
No, I don't see anything, so maybe they're just running a little late. So we're going to get started. You guys are here, and you deserve to get rolling with things. So I'm Tammy. I don't know if you can see. I'll roll it down a little bit. This is one of my dogs. This is little Lolly. She's she's a about 13-year-old little cattle dog. I have three dogs actually. Anyway, so we're gonna in this class we are going to do some introduction to basic skills, and we're going to talk about some issues particular to raising a puppy. Training is basically communication, and all social creatures need and desire a voice, and we will be giving your dog a voice by training. That's one of the things that training does. I thought we'd just start with a little round of introductions. I'll go first, but when it comes to you, I thought you would just tell me, just say your name, your puppy's name, your name, their age, approximate age if you know it, their breed, and something you love about your puppy. And I know you guys kind of already know the names, but I'm also recording this just to let you know, and if somebody misses the orientation, then they'll be able to get intros into to everybody. So I'll go first. I've been working with dogs about somewhere between 13 and 14 years. I got into training about 6 years ago, started working at a really great training facility here in town, and I was hooked. I love it. Again, it's the thing I love about it most is the fact that I feel like I get to talk to the animals. It's like just, the communication part of it is my favorite part. And also just seeing it, be able to make changes in comfort level and the basic skills of being able to make things safer for our dogs. And it's just a lot of fun as well. They enjoy it. We enjoy it. If both parties aren't enjoying it, then you need to step back and re-examine it, because that's a big part of it, is the bonding and the fun. Yes, I have three dogs. I worked at a shelter slash daycare. It was a daycare slash shelter, and then it basically became a shelter slash daycare. We started getting more and more dogs in for adoption, and I'm the poster child of what not to do when you work at a shelter. I adopted 5 of the misfits. I'm down to 3 now. The herd is thinning. My life is easier, but it's hard. It's hard to lose them. I lost one just a couple of months ago, my lab.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. But yeah, I'm down to a cattle dog and 2 chihuahuas. It's quite a little threesome I've got going. And I love my dogs immensely. They are, they're my family, which I'm sure you guys understand that. Especially if you're taking this class, it tells me you take it very seriously, the place that your dog takes in your life, the place that it holds. Yeah, no further ado. Celeste, do you want to go give us a little?
Sure. Can you both hear me okay?
We can. You're coming in great. Yes.
So I'm Celeste. This is Pearl. Pearl is only 12 weeks old, or she'll be 12 weeks old on Thursday. She's an English Mastiff, and so she is totally amazing. I just love her so much.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, wonderful.
So wonderful, and she's such a lover. She just loves, like, she is like a lap dog. She loves to snuggle.
Oh, that's so great.
She's
look
just
at those
so
ears
precious.
for years. Yeah.
I Yes, his ears. She's also started to do a little bit of the drool, so I'm seeing all of it.
Yeah.
She is, definitely a puppy and is mouthing everything and chewing everything.
Totally normal.
I'm looking forward to her out of the puppy
Yeah.
stage, but I just thought dog obedience was really helpful, particularly because she's going to be 130 pounds.
Definitely,
And so
you're
before she gets
absolutely
that big,
correct. Yes. Yes. Sometimes we can let the little ones, like my chihuahuas do jump on me sometimes, but when there's that small, it's a little bit inconsequential,
yeah,
so, but when they're that big, yeah, just can't,
yeah,
you can't do it. You could, knock somebody over.
yeah.
So great. And Xenia, do you want to tell us a little bit about
Yeah.
Quinn?
Yeah. So hi everyone. My name is Xenia. Quinny has been home with me now for about a month, maybe a couple days past a month. Hold on one second, girl, baby. She is 4 months old, I think. So I think mid-May birth date.
Okay.
She's currently weighing in at 6 pounds, has had her vaccination. So we're on our way to making sure that she's
Yeah.
a healthy little puppy,
No,
which is great. I lost the only other dog I've had passed or we had to put down last year was an 11-year-old Beagle Terrier mix.
oh,
Oh,
that's a
I'm
cool mix.
definitely like trying to combat some of the feelings of like fear that this dog is sick or that this, something's going to happen to this dog already as a
Totally
puppy.
understand.
Cool. Let's
Yeah.
just be set up for success. So anyways, we've been home together. She is absolutely adorable. I never thought I would have a tiny dog, but she is just like perfect. And one of the things I really love about her is when she yawns, she makes this noise like a cat meow. It's kind of like,
Oh,
meow. And
oh
it's
my gosh. Oh yeah, that's endearing.
I
That's
love.
endearing.
Definitely into fighting everything, and so I'm looking forward to like supporting her to be for us to work together in different ways, and then I'd really like to train her to walk on a leash. That's
Oh
the
yeah. We don't get, okay, in this class we touch on that. We get more in depth in that in Kinderpuppy 2 and basic manners, but I'll definitely get you on the road to begin working on leash walking skills. And you guys, I hate to do this, but I'm going to check in one more time just in case someone's trying to get a hold of me. I apologize for this. Hopefully we're going to get this worked out soon. So bear with me. I'm just going to check in on my email again. Okay. So, but we'll have no one's checked in, so no biggie. They'll have this recording to watch to get ready for next class. So let me go back to full screen. Excellent. And some for you guys to think about. I don't usually talk about this, but it just occurred to me I should probably start putting this in the orientation, especially from someone who has all my dogs are senior dogs right now, and I am being blasted with vet bills because they're all older and they're all having some problems. And if I had, from the beginning, I would recommend looking into some pet insurance. I did try to get some pet insurance a long time ago. They kept raising the rates in this particular one, but now there's actually something called Bivy, just something to think about, because what happens is once they start getting these conditions, then it's pre-existing conditions and then they won't be covered. So the idea is to get in there early before they have any pre-existing conditions so that everything will be covered when it crops up, and now's the time. And Bivy is one that I just recently learned about, and it's just they don't keep raising the rates, my understanding. You just pay $11 a month excuse me, and it will cover half of the vet costs. Again, the pre-existing condition thing, that's on all of them. They don't cover that, but they will cover half of everything. And man, half of everything is a lot. especially I'm here to tell you, I've had, even just in the last couple of months, 2 of my dogs have had surgeries, and it's just one thing after another. So if you can get in there before they become pre-existing conditions, that is the way to go. So just something to think about. So we're going to move on here. So something to keep in mind in the classroom, this classroom is where mostly you guys are going to be doing the learning. Your dog's going to learn all the time. They're little sponges. But what's most important is that when the class is over, each class is over, that you make sure, we want to make sure that you have a grasp on what we covered so that you can take it out of the classroom and then work on it with your dog at, the convenient time that you have to work on training. So I just want to make sure. So in other words, if your dog is maybe not during this classroom time responding to training, is opting out, it's not a big deal. We don't force them. We just let them, okay, that's fine. But I just want to make sure I'll be checking with you to make sure that when I'm doing the demos and that you're getting the mechanics and everything down so that you can actually go work on it when they are in the mood to train. So that's something very important. We don't train with our dogs when they're not in the mood. We just let them choose. There will be some times that maybe they just become unmotivated, and sometimes you can pull out like a higher value treat and get them back in the game. So there are things you can do to up the ante on motivation, but definitely if they're still saying no, then we just, that's just fine. And during the classroom time, we'll just let them chill out and do their thing, and we'll just concentrate on you guys paying attention to me and making sure that you understand what you need to do when the class is over to go work with your dog. So again, the overview of the class, we're going to work on introduction to basic skills, and that's kind of key there. It is introduction, and it will be kindergarten level. We need to have realistic expectations that you won't be at PhD level when this class is over. It's only 6 weeks, but you will have what you need to continue on your path to get to that PhD level. And I, of course, will highly recommend that you consider taking like a Kinderpuppy 2 or even a basic manners class, which is a lot of repeat, but we do get more in depth with certain things like leash walking skills is one of those things. And also it's just a great way to get us more solid foundation, just to continue to working on it. And then you can review so that you can, if you've forgotten some things, and it can just get you back on track to make sure you're working towards a solid foundation on all these behaviors. So realistic expectations, but we will see a lot of progress just in the 6 weeks. I promise you that. I'm also going to ask that even if you're already working on some of the basic skills like sit or down, that you bear with me and start from the very beginnings, from scratch with me. And the reason for that is the process that we teach one skill is that we'll take that process and we'll put it to teaching other skills. So it's a bit of a template. It won't always be the same, but there's a basic template that we'll use in sort of the progression that we do to teach each behavior. And by following that, it ensures you, or there's no guarantees, but it's a good insurance that you will get that behavior to be solid eventually by starting from this point and then moving forward. So another thing I'm going to be harping on a lot, and I emphasize a lot in this class, is we need to notice and reward when our puppies do something that we want them to do. And we have a tendency as humans to pay a whole lot of attention to our dogs when they're doing something we don't want to do. We get in there, we're all involved, and then they go and they lay down quietly, or they're sitting quietly, or they're just chilling out, and then we run away. And actually, that's the time you need to be paying the most attention to your puppy. You need to be rewarding that, because the behaviors that are rewarded, or reinforced is a technical term for it, go up in frequency. So you're going to start seeing more and more of that behavior. Your dog's chilling, it's got a Kong, relaxing. Before you go away and do your thing, because you're like, yay, I got some time to myself, take the time to pay attention to that, and even just treat on top of the Kong, meaning still put some stuff down there. They're eating their Kong, they're going to look and they're like, oh, I'm getting even extra treats. And even chewing on the Kong in and of itself is rewarding them. So they're going to be getting this jackpot of rewards for doing what? For laying there quietly, chilling in a calm state of mind. And that's what we want to do. We want to make sure that we notice these things, and not just that, but other things. Your dog's doing something you like, be sure and stick around long enough to make sure you let them know that you like it. Another thing we have a tendency to do, and it's in that same framework, is we're always telling our dogs what we don't want them to do, but what we forget to do is, or what we leave out is showing them what we want them to do. A good example is your dog is jumping on you, and you're letting them know, no, I don't want you to do this. You know, you walk away, you do whatever you're doing to like discourage that behavior. But your dog doesn't know, what do you want me to do instead of that behavior? So for me, I would teach my dog 4 on the floor, meaning all 4 paws on the floor. And so I would try to set up a situation so that they would be giving me that behavior, and I get an opportunity to reward that. So, so it's not just showing them what we don't want them to do. We have to actually teach them an alternative behavior. I just recently read this analogy, and I love it, and I'm sticking with it. Of that scenario, and in human terms, something that helps us to sort of visualize and imagine the circumstances. Imagine if you got into a taxi cab and you told the taxi cab driver, I do not want to go to Union Station. If you take me there, I'm going to get really frustrated. I don't want to go to Safeway. If you take me there, I'm going to get mad. Okay, the taxi cab driver is like confused. He's frustrated. He's like paralyzed. He's like, I don't know what to do. And you are not getting what you want. You're not going where you want to go. So instead you get in the cab and you go, I would like to go to Laurelhurst Park. The taxi guy takes you to Laurelhurst Park. You pay him, you tip him, you thank him, you get out. You've arrived at your destination. The cab driver's happy because you let him know what you wanted, not just what you didn't want. So I want to move on to socialization, talk a little bit about that. I'm sure you guys have heard that term battered around a lot. It simply means introducing your dog to new things in its environment. And it sounds simple, but it gets misconstrued a lot. And people think quantity over quality, and they end up flooding their puppy with the new thing. And puppies can get traumatized by that. And sometimes that trauma can actually last a lifetime. Or you're hiring a private trainer because you're trying to undo that trauma that happened. And it's not quantity over quality, it's quality over quantity. We want to go very slow, basically from a low intensity to a higher intensity. And what we like to do is take this new thing that comes into your puppy's environment, and we like to pair it with food, with treats. So new thing appears, treats fall from the sky, new thing goes away, the bar closes. So what they're doing is they're starting to associate good things with this new thing. Also, while we're doing that, we want to look at our puppy, watch our puppy, and see if we're seeing any signs of stress or fear. Have you guys noticed any signs that you, could share with me, like that you're noticing that your puppy looks nervous or anxious or fearing something, just like body language? It's not a test. I'm just curious to see if you guys have noticed some of these things in your puppies.
Yeah, when Pearl gets scared, she hides. So she
That's,
likes to get under things.
yep, that's definitely one of the things that they will do.
Yeah,
The opposite of that would be running away.
yeah,
I mean, not the opposite of that, I'm sorry. The opposite of that would actually be going towards the thing and lunging and barking. She's
yeah,
choosing the opposite of that, and that's like to get away from it. So it can manifest
yeah.
itself in both ways.
Nice.
Um, Xenia, have you noticed any fear
Yeah,
observations?
yeah. Her kind of ears go back almost like a bunny rabbit to the.
Bingo. That is one of the, that is definitely one of the signs. Something about the ears going back is interesting. All these little body part things that you see can actually mean other things. You kind of have to look at the context. Like sometimes when I'm playing with my little cattle dog Lolly, she gets all soft and fuzzy and her ears will go back. But I know I can tell by the rest of her body that this is a good thing. We're having a good time. So you kind of got to look at the whole picture and notice if something's new, something has come into their environment, and you just kind of look at the rest of their body, like is their tail tucked? Are they crouching down to the ground? Sometimes dogs will get really low to the ground. They'll harbor, they'll hide, again, lunge and bark, whine. Um, there's some subtle signs that people aren't really aware of, and one of those is licking their lips. If you ever see them start licking their lips, yawning, that's something they do a lot, and that gets missed. Um, uh, Another one is, strangely enough, it's just scratching. And sometimes they are just scratching an itch, but sometimes it's something to geek out on you. It's called displacement behavior. And actually, it's kind of like us chewing our nails when we're nervous and we're just trying to do something, to relieve that anxiety. And again, they could just be scratching an itch. But take into account the context of it. If something scary is just, or something new has come into their environment and you start to see your dog scratch, there could be a very good chance that they're feeling discomfort for that. So again, something comes into their environment, or we introduce something into their environment and we watch our puppies for some of these signs. If we start to see some of these signs, or if they stop taking food, then we know that the thing is presented itself in too high of an intensity, meaning they are starting to cross over threshold. So that's what we call it, threshold. And at that point, learning stops happening. So what we like to do, think about yourself. If you're super stressed out, are you capable of learning anything? So your puppy's not actually going to be able to make that positive pairing with the food and the scary thing. So what we try to do is catch the puppy before they get into that state, when they're still showing signs of calmness. Um, you can tell their mental state is good, and that's when we want to feed them then. So if you see something in the distance, it's approaching, feed you see your puppy, notice it, maybe a man on crutches. It could be, and it doesn't have to be that your puppy's necessarily going to be frightened of it, but it's still a new thing, and we want to work on them not being frightened of it. We don't know necessarily how they're going to feel. So we just want to feed when new things come into their environment, and we want to catch them before they look upset, before they look like they're getting fearful or stressed out. And then when that new thing goes away, then we want to stop feeding. And if you notice when you're, say, introducing a vacuum cleaner or various things to your puppy, if you notice that you're starting to see those signs, you need to move the thing away. If it's a sound, you need to make sure you turn down the volume. If it's something in the environment you can't control, you need to get away from it as fast as you can. Just bail your puppy out. Don't keep trying. If you're seeing those signs, we need to rescue them from that and advocate for them and get them where they're comfortable again. So the idea is to catch them before they get into that state. The thing is, we can't introduce our puppies to every single thing that they're going to encounter in their entire lives. But if we have this huge history of positive pairings with lots of different new things that they encounter, then what we are doing is we're building an optimistic puppy. We want to create an optimistic puppy, a glass half full puppy, so that when down the line something comes into their environment that they've never encountered before and you haven't socialized them to it, they've got this big history of these positive pairings where things turned out well. They turned out fantastic. They got like hot dog and, chicken and all these things. And they see this new thing approaching or coming into their environment. And hopefully, and most likely, what we've done is we've given them the confidence to take it on. So they're going to be like, I got this. It's just happened before to me in the past where something weird came in or, something that I didn't understand. And it all turned out good. So we just need to work on socialization constantly. Right now, your puppy is deciding what it feels about everything. You can teach basic skills at any point in a dog's life. Any point, you can work on that. The socialization needs to happen now when they're young and they're making decisions, because we can put this tiny amount of work into it now and yield these vast amounts of results. Later, if they've got a problem with something, we can put huge amounts of work into it and maybe yield a tiny bit of results. So in other words, it's easier to make a good impression now than to undo a bad impression later. Later, you're going to be looking into private training, and some things, I'm sad to say, can't be undone. And improper socialization or no socialization at all is what winds dogs up in shelters. That's like one of the number one things. So that being said, that's what you really need to be putting your most amount of focus into right now, and always have food on you. Try to have a variety of things. You might need to pull out the big guns, when something's come into the environment. If your dog, say you're out on a walk and your dog is not really interested in kibble, or, you're just regular treats that you're using. And then you're walking along and you see something entering your environment, make sure you have something better to present to your dog at that point, so that actually you will be making a positive pairing, not just like a neutral pairing that with a food that he's not even interested in anymore. So we want to create really, really, really good feelings. Just tolerating something is not enough. And the reason for that is because your puppies are going to go through different developmental stages, and they're going to go through fear periods, second and third fear periods, and they may change their mind. That happens a lot, where a dog will tolerate, will be okay with something. It's okay, I'm not scared of it. And then one day, boom, they're terrified of the vacuum. So what we're doing is, by building these super duper good feelings, say about, for example, the vacuum, we're helping to guard against that changing of their mind. So enough about that. Got to talk your ear off about that. The reason we harp on that socialization so much is just because it really is the most important thing at this stage of the game. So
can I ask a question really quick
bet.
about socialization? When I think about socialization, I think about like with other puppies and with.
Yeah, that's, I was just, you read my mind.
Are there like levels of, or, when you talk about it, are you talking about all of it?
Yeah, and it's funny, you read my mind. I was just about to move on, and then I looked at my notes and I forgot to actually mention what are we socializing to. And yes, other dogs, different types of people. I know it's a little more difficult during COVID, but you can definitely do things at a distance. People that are walking funny, people that are moving funny, people that are wearing, men who are wearing beards, different types of people, different types of surfaces, different objects. And you can do so much socialization even just within your home. Lay some weird things down on your carpet, on your floor, like bubble wrap, or something that makes a noise when they walk across it. You can work on doing some odd movements. Just acting funny and making sure you're feeding. That's something that gets dogs. They can really be fearful when they notice someone just even walking just a little bit different. That can, they dogs are genius at picking up on our body language there, but it cuts both ways. And it also means they're paying so much attention that it can actually be disturbing to them if someone is acting differently from your norm. And that's why children can be a little more difficult for puppies, because they're unpredictable. And that's a big one. And what you would not want to do is plop your puppy down in the middle of a children's birthday party. What you'd want to do is do it slowly from a distance, and close that distance where eventually your child is tossing a treat. And by just practicing, even just with yourselves doing odd movements around your puppy, you're actually helping your puppy to deal with children more. So do a lot of socialization to the best of your ability. And again, like I said, to help them become optimists, so when something strange is going on, they'll be a little bit more apt to deal with it. So just make your apartment into this crazy socialization area where you're doing odd things, you're wearing masks. Halloween's coming up. Put weird things on, weird clothing, masks, again, surfaces, objects, your vacuum cleaner. If you got a skateboard, bring a skateboard in. Work with the skateboard before they encounter, before they encounter one out in the world. Skateboards are a #1 thing that dogs have problems with, because they make a high-pitched noise as they're going across the surface of the street. So you can work on just getting them comfortable with just even having a skateboard in their presence, and then build to moving on the skateboard, and then build to moving the skateboard across the concrete. So it's all about small increments. There is, as far as dog socialization, we offer a puppy play and train. Go on our website, you'll see that. That's Tuesdays and Thursdays. That's going to be changing to the northeast. Right now it's in the southeast. On, I think it's October 15th. There's also a class called How to Raise a Confident, Well-Adjusted Dog. It's coming up on the 17th. You might consider taking, and they're going to take the socialization to a higher level in that class. So we don't have time to actually do a socialization exercise, but I think they're going to be doing one in that class, and then it'll get a little more hands-on about how to go about it. And also just various other things on how to raise a confident dog. All this is on the website. A couple other places that are doing socials. They're all drop-in, by the way, as far as I know. Doggy Business. And if you forget this, you can always just email me and I'll let you know. Wonder Puppy, though I think they have a waiting list. And Brooklyn Yard Vet is doing socials through a company called Pupstar. So again, if you forget this, or just want a reminder, you can always drop me an email and I'll get back with you on that. Yes, you really need to get them out there playing with other puppies. It's very important that they learn from each other. They learn how to play with each other. They nip a dog a little too hard, the other dog will run away and maybe yelp. And the puppy will learn, when I do that, when I mouth a little too hard on this puppy, they go away from me. And so, bummer, maybe I won't do that next time. So, also, let's see what else I was going to touch on. Okay, so moving on, just wanted to talk a little bit about leash handling, just in its basic form. Think about your leash as a safety belt, as opposed to thinking of it as a steering wheel. And what I mean by that is thinking about moving your dog around other ways than pulling them by the leash. And one way to do that is take a little piece of high value food and put it at their nose. And you can move them through space as they follow the treat. You can move them where you want to move them. And, give them the nibbles on the treat, and, even give them the treat when you get to where you're going. Don't tease them. You can let them nibble it as you're moving. And that is a great way. We use that all the time to move dogs around through space, as opposed to tugging them. Another, you can kind of use your body to sort of block and move your dog around, and also prompting noises. You can say their name, but try not to repeat their name, because dogs we talk so much that dogs start tuning us out. And if you keep repeating their name, I guarantee you they're gonna tune their name out. So say their name once if you're trying to get them to move to you or moving them around. Then try to use a prompting noise. I click, I go, whoops. Oh, I thought that might wake her up. I use like clucking noises. She's dead to the world. Oh, she raised her head. I use clucking noises. You can use kissy noises. You can just lightly clap your hands. You can like pat your thighs, you know, be animated. In other words, other ways to move your dogs around. Also, I didn't notice because you don't have them geared up, I do recommend a harness. Dogs are going to pull whether it hurts or not. That's just what they do. It's something called oppositional reflex that they have, where if you pull them, they pull in the opposite direction. And there's a lot of tender structures in the neck, the trachea, the thyroid. And because dogs will pull even if it hurts, those can become inflamed. You know, short of an injury, which can happen too, they can just over time become chronically inflamed, which actually can affect their whole system. So, and you can't stop them from pulling. I mean, again, we can work on leash skills, but until you get to that PhD level loose leash walking level, you're going to get some pulling. And so a harness will really help protect their neck. I actually recommend, hold on 1 minute, I'm going to grab it. I'm a big fan of the Freedom harness, and I promise I don't work for them, but I am an avid fan of them. And one of the reasons I am is because harnesses are, dogs can get out of them. And I'm also a dog walker, and I've had, it's horrifying. You look down and your dog that you're walking, and a squirrel chaser, no less, is standing there naked on the corner, and your heart like skips a beat, and you have to catch your breath and just hope that when you reach out, they don't like take off. I had that happen not that long ago. That's why from here on out, I carabiner the harness to the collar, because I don't get to control as a dog walker the gear that my dogs walk on. So I just carabiner them, so I don't worry about that anymore. But and by carabiner, just one of these little loopy things, and then I hook it to their collar and their harness. But the Freedom harness has an extra strap that goes down their chest, so that it makes it really hard for them to wiggle out of. And another thing that makes it hard for them to wiggle out of is when they tug, it actually cinches up and hugs their body. So it doesn't squeeze them so tight that it hurts, but it does cinch up on their body, which is this wonderful peace of mind for me, that when they start pulling, it's the opposite of getting away from me. They're actually being held, hugged tighter. So it's a lot of peace of mind. It's also got felt on the straps. Freedom harness, you can get at Mud Bay. I think they sell it at Green Dog. They sell them online. Something to think about. Okay, moving on. Let's see. Want to talk really quickly? I'm just going to check my time here. Yeah, doing pretty good. I'm going to talk a little bit about how dogs learn. Dogs are opportunists. They try something, and when it stops working, they try again. Also, just like every animal, including humans, they learn by association, which we've already talked about, the pairing up of things, two things being paired together, which I was talking about in socialization, pairing the new thing with food. So they learn by pairing things together, and they also learn by consequence. Just another example of a positive pairing would be, you know, of course, when you rattle the treat bag, your dog comes running, or the food bag, because they've now put those two together in their mind. They coexist together. And that is what we call a good association. You could also, you know, get a bad association, you know, say they're trolling around trying to get up on the kitchen counter, and they knock something off, and it like makes a loud bang. Now they, you know, that could create, oh, now I'm frightened, because now I associate jumping up on the counter with something loud and scary happening. So it can go either way, good associations and bad associations. And consequence, just to reiterate what I was talking about, say if puppy A nips puppy B runs away, puppy A has now just lost access to puppy B, and that was the consequence of his action. And essentially what happened was that puppy was punished, and behaviors that are punished go down in frequency. So hopefully next time that puppy, because of the consequence, he won't nip as hard and the puppy won't run away from him. And also another good consequence, that would be a bad consequence. A good one would be you ask your puppy to sit, he sits and you give him a treat. The consequence of him sitting is getting a treat. So he learns he's been rewarded, so he will be more apt to sit the next time you ask him because of the consequence that occurred. There's a bit of a culture clash between humans and dogs because everything that dogs do naturally, that they were born to do, born to be dogs, is annoying to us. Oh boy, okay, what are we gonna do about that? Yeah, it's a culture clash. Dogs love to dig, they love to chew. All those behaviors, it just goes on, and they're just being dogs. They're not trying to get us, spite us. They're not being stubborn. They're not up to anything. It's just what dogs do. So what we have to do is create like a compromise situation so that they still get to be dogs, but we don't get driven insane. So what we do is we channel that behavior into some way that will be acceptable to us. And also while we're doing that, we set up the environment, manage the environment so that our dogs will be successful. So good example, you leave out your fancy shoes, your dog chews them up. Okay, that's scenario one. Now scenario B is you put your fancy shoes away. So that's managing the environment. And instead, you leave out a Kong, a stuffed Kong, for your dog to chew. So what you've done is you've channeled his chewing into, and you've focused it on the Kong instead of on your on your shoes. Well, was a chew to him, because dogs don't really they don't care what they chew on. There's nothing legal or not not legal about anything. It's just all things to chew for a dog. So we have to channel that. Another thing is digging. Your dog digs up your flower beds. Well, what we can do is we can block off, at least temporarily, while we're when we're channeling our dog. We can put for example, a child's swimming pool and fill it full of dirt. And we can train our dogs to go dig there. We channel it into an area that we like. And then in the meantime, we discourage them from going over here into the flower bed. And they get to chew and you get to keep your garden. So it's a win-win situation. Yeah, if someone does not want their dog to do any of those behaviors, another is peeing and pooping. They're going to do that naturally. So what do? We house train them. So it's the same scenario. We're just channeling that behavior into the outside so that we can keep our sanity. So if a person doesn't want their dog to do any of those behaviors, then they shouldn't. I mean, they shouldn't have a dog. They get a pet rock or something. I don't know. So you got to let them be dogs. You gotta let them be themselves. I mean, think about it. This world is crazy enough for us to navigate. Can you imagine what a dog is going through? And then couple that with being a puppy, and they've only been on the planet for just a few weeks. So it is just, it must just be, I can't even imagine, so daunting for them to try to figure. But they're such good sports, and they're really smart, and they're happy to do whatever it is that you want to help to lead them down the right path. They're happy to do that. we just, we got to help them out. Okay, I wanted to check in with a few puppy things real quick before we run out of time. The orientation usually goes over a little bit, but if you guys have to go somewhere, I can send you the, I'm going to try not to go over very much, but I can send you the recording if you need to leave, but hopefully it'll only be like 10 minutes if that's okay. I want to check in with crate training. Are you crate training? And if you are, how's that going? Celeste? It's not absolutely necessary that you crate train. Crate training is just a wonderful tool to help you house train. It's also a wonderful tool to have in an emergency if you have to put your dog somewhere. But right now as a puppy, it's a great place to put your dog in and contain them while you're training them not to go in the house. But one thing I did want to say is, and you guys probably don't feel this way, but I just always feel like it's my ethic duty just to say that crates are not a place that you're put your dog in like you're putting them like a toy up on the shelf. And some people have this idea that they can just put their dog in the crate all day long while they're at work. 8 hours to take their dog out when they get home, play with them, and then put them back in there at bedtime, and they're living their lives in their crate. That's not what crates are for. Crates are a temporary tool to use as such. So, but when they're a puppy, it is just a marvelous tool to have. You can also, when you're working on house training, use an X pen to keep them contained, and you can put the crate in there. And that would be if you had to leave them for longer than they were able. That's really good for when you have to leave them longer than they're able to hold it. And just so you guys know, they can hold it right now for their number of months they've been alive +1. So you said Quinn was 4 months old, so he can go 5 hours right now. But and how old is Pearl?
3.
So she can go 4, but that's more of a rule of thumb. If you have to leave the house, I would still make sure that you are leaving them a place to go potty separate from in their crate if you are leaving them for that long, because right now we're still house training them. So I would try to take them out every hour. But anyway, Pearl, how's it going?
We have a crate. I want her to associate it with positive things and not negative things.
Yes, you're completely right.
Yeah, so I've been leaving the door open and just having it a place where she could get a treat. So that's all. She sleeps with me and I take her out regularly. So I haven't done the shut the door and leave her in there, and probably won't do so until she really likes it more.
Okay, and there's yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so and I've just been taking her with me everywhere,
okay.
Which at some point I'm going to need to be able to leave her, but right now I didn't want to do that.
Okay, I'm glad you actually said that last thing. That's something I was going to talk a little bit about, but first I was just going to comment on that's perfect what you're doing. You're not closing the door on her. Something that would help make the crate training go a little faster is putting her really yummy chew things in there, even putting her food bowl in there, but not closing the door. Just putting yummy things in there that will make her go in on her own, even if she eats the thing and then comes back out again. A really cool trick I was reading at one pretty astute, fabulous trainer does when he's training a puppy, as he takes like a stuffed Kong and he's standing next to the crate and he opens the crate door and he sticks the stuffed Kong in the crate, and the puppy's looking at the Kong, and then he just shuts the door for a minute and the puppy's on the outside. And so the puppy's looking in there and seeing that good, yummy thing. And then he opens the door and lets the puppy go in and get it. And what you're doing is you're kind of upping the ante on motivation, that forbidden fruit. It's like, wait a minute, it's on the other side. I want to get in there to get the thing. So it's just kind of helping modify that desire a little bit and make it more intense. But yes, put yummy things in there, even feed them in there. If they're comfortable enough. If you feel they're really afraid of it, I wouldn't, I would do more like bully sticks or stuffed Kongs, just things that they would go in there and grab, and they just start thinking, again, the positive association. Start pairing that crate with really, really good things. But it sounds like you're doing everything right, Pearl. I will just talk to that point about during COVID, we're getting a lot of these dogs that are getting 24/7 human time, which is like the jackpot for dogs. And I love it. I'm loving this I've got to spend a lot more time with my dogs, but we could be creating a disaster down the line when suddenly maybe our lives change and we suddenly have to leave the house for an extended amount of time. And we need to be guarding against that meltdown. And so, yes, you need to start leaving Pearl alone for little short amounts of time. Make sure she's, in it. I would make sure doesn't have access to the full house when you're doing it. I would put her, maybe get an X pen or have like an area that's been puppy proofed, blocked off, like a kitchen area or bathroom. And what I recommend is you leave them in this space for short amounts of time first while you're home, before you actually leave the house, with yummy treats, a really, really yummy stuffed Kong with peanut butter or cream cheese or something that's just extremely high value. So Xenia, yes, checking in with you with crate training.
Yeah. So Quinn had come from a foster home where I think she was, it must have been in a crate. And the reason I say that is because I had a crate here when she came, and she jumped right in, actually.
That is fantastic.
And so I've used that. It's just, it's, I don't have a divider. It's not large enough for that. But what I've been doing now that she's been here about a month is we did get an exercise pen. I haven't left her for much longer than a handful of hours. Yesterday, I left her for about 5 hours, but a friend came like an hour and a half in
nice.
and stayed.
Yeah, that's another great idea to have someone come over and
yeah. I've been trying because I've been a little worried about what it means to have all this time with me, and like certainly I'm probably gonna
very
work
astute.
Her,
it is
still,
an issue.
I don't. Yeah, so I've even just like been getting in my car and going. I don't even have anything to do, but I'll leave for a little while, like try to find things to do.
Yes, because you never know when you might suddenly your situation might change.
Totally.
Even before a work situation might change, there might be a situation where you want to go and do something without your dog. You know what I mean? Just to leave the house.
Yeah.
And so be working on that. Sounds like Xenia, you're on top of that. It sounds like you lucked out and you got an automatic crate trained dog. I lucked out with that too. All three of my dogs that I have right now, they like to go in their crate. It's a safe spot for them.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, if I move the crate and all my especially one of my chihuahuas, he's following around behind it. It's like, what are you doing with it? Where are you going with it? And trying to get in it. He's like trying to rush in it. And my cattle dog, I have a really small crate I use for the chihuahuas. And when I got her, I was shocked. She will go in the teeny little crate. And if I'm on the bus or something, when I take the crate, and people are like, what in the world? And she goes in there and she gets herself in a little tight ball, and she does it on her own. She likes it that way and she feels safe. So lucky you, Xenia, you got, it's already done. So fantastic. It sounds like you're working on leaving them alone. Pearl, Celeste. I do that sometimes. I start calling you by your dog's name, so I apologize in advance. Start thinking about that. For Pearl, I would start leaving her alone in her little space, whatever they may be, X-Pen, crate. She's not ready for it to be left in the crate with the door shut. So I would think about just a little area that you could puppy proof. Start doing that while you're at home. Very short moments. Build on this slowly, because we will wind up with, if we're all not careful during this COVID, we're going to wind up with some messed up dogs that can't handle being left alone. And we're as trainers, we've all, my coworkers and me have all, talked about that fear that we're creating these dogs that are going to be full-blown separation anxiety. And you don't want a dog with separation anxiety, because that is a really tough one. That's a tough one. Trust me, I had one of those, and it was hard. It doesn't mean that it can't be fixed, but it's something that requires a lot of patience and a lot of work. And it's way easier to guard against that now instead of trying to deal with it later. Okay, so potty training's going pretty good. You're saying, you guys are saying that's going. How about you, Xenia?
Yeah, I was taking Quinn out every like 2 to 3 hours, which worked really well. And in the middle of the night, she was like sleeping in her crate for a while, and then we would go out in the middle of the night. And knock on wood, the last 2 nights she slept almost through the night, so it was 6 hours, which is huge. It's the first time that's happened. All that to say, she Quinn spent the first part of her life in Texas. I'm not sure if she saw a lot of rain, but she just doesn't. She was like freaked out by the rain, was not having it. So the other day, definitely went outside and was like, "No, I am pooping and peeing in the house today only." So we're just like working on like getting her back out every couple hours, and so it's going well other than that.
Good. And I will say both. Not both. So I have 2 Chihuahuas, and one of my Chihuahuas, he does not do rain. He does not do snow. No way. It's just not going to happen. I mean, I can barely get him out. He goes out the door and stops, a few feet from the door. He's like, "This is where I'm going." Yeah. And I see there's something going on out there.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's a Chihuahua thing, because my other Chihuahua, she's a mix too. And she doesn't mind. I mean, she doesn't like to get pummeled, but I mean, who does? But I put her little rain jacket on, and she goes in snow, she goes in rain. She's a little trooper. So it doesn't seem to bother her. So I don't know if it's a Chihuahua thing, but it actually can just, I think a lot of, it happens. A dog just does not like to get raindrops on its head.
Right. Can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
I've read differing views online, but around like pee pad training and or crate training at the same time. I recently put a pee pad in her exercise pen, just got to leave her for a few hours. She didn't eat on it yet, and so and mostly she just rips them up and runs around the house with them, so I didn't even start with the pee pads. But I feel like the information I've been seeing is like pretty much 50-50. They're like, don't pee pad train at all ever, or like maybe you could do that and also crate train.
Yeah, I think you can do both. It concerns me a little that she's ripping it up. Have you seen any signs that she might be eating it? That would just be my only concern.
Yeah, so she the first time that when she arrived here, she ripped it up, and then I pulled them up, and I just didn't use them after that. Now I have one of those things that like holds it together, like plastic around the pee pad, and so now I won't rip up the pee pad.
So it's not happening as much. Something you can do. So yeah, I don't have any problem with what I do. If you're crate training and pee pad training, you have your crate in the area. The contained area, and then far enough away, just so you can put your pee pads down. But also something you can do if Quinn is not using the pee pads, a trick that I read is you're using a little apparatus, so I don't know if you have extras of those, but you put down multiple pee pads. So and then as they're starting to go on it, you one by one start picking up the pee pads. So eventually you've only got one target for them to hit, but by that time they've developed the habit of going on the pee pad. But I continue also to house train outside as well, but they can learn to do both. And as you're removing starting to remove some of the pee pads one by one, start with removing the one that's closest to their bed, closest to their crate if he's sleeping in the crate, or to his bed if he's sleeping on a little pad, a little bed, because they have a tendency to not want to go near their bedding. So start the one that's closest to that and move your way towards the furthest one away. So that way there's enough on the floor that there's a bigger chance from hitting the target, and then you just make the target smaller. And also some people train their dogs to go on a little piece of sod. It's a little more involved, you know, having to keep sod in your, you know, backyard or whatever, and you have little pieces of it that you put down. But that also makes it, you know, the transition to the grass a little easier. But most people just go with pea pads. So yeah, just something to think about. But yeah, no, I think you can do both. Yeah, no problem. Yeah. Okay, we're going to move on real quick. Just talk a little bit about making sure that you're giving your dog lots of things to chew. I recommend bully sticks or raw marrow bones or stuffed Kongs. Raw hides are not good for their digestion. They take forever to digest. Um, cooked marrow bones can shatter and splinter, so I don't recommend those. I recommend if you're using a Kong to start out making it really easy to access the thing, because you kind of have to build up toleration level. So frustration level, I'm sorry. So you got to make it really easy for them. And then you can make it harder where you're making the Kong eat harder and harder, stuff tighter and tighter, and then freezing it and doing things like that. But in the beginning, I would make sure whatever you put in the Kong is really easy for them to get out, because sometimes puppies will just give up. And then you've just kind of like, you know, it's not working for them. And then they could, you know, it could actually be, you know, in association with this thing causes me frustration. So, so something to think about.
What do you, so we have a Kong, and Pearl just is not a fan of peanut butter, and that I thought she would be. So what other things do you recommend?
I recommend cream cheese. There's you can get a can of it's not the healthiest thing in the world, but you know, if an occasional treat, you're not just feeding it to them constantly. The kind of cheese that squeezes out of a can, you can just have a can of that at the ready. You know what? Yeah, Xenia, I've definitely met dogs that don't like peanut butter. So it's not, you know, it's not common, but it's not, it happens. So yeah. So yeah, a little bit of that, cream cheese, cheese, pieces of cheese, little coconut oil in there. Dogs love coconut oil usually. I'm trying to think of some other things, just some soft treats. Drawing a blank on some other things. Let me think. What else? Those are the easiest to access. Baby food, chicken, you know, like a chicken baby food. You can also just use for treating a dog, get a little can of baby food. And when, you know, if you're working on a behavior, instead of treating them, you can just hold out the baby food and take a little lick. So it's just something to think about. So yeah, I'll think on that. I might be leaving something out, but those are the easiest ones. And I would make sure that you're not, if you're using cream cheese or you're using, well, you guys won't be using peanut butter, but if you were, I wouldn't use just massive amounts because they are really fatty. So I try to mix other things in there with them. Oh, I just thought of it, pumpkin. And pumpkin's really healthy. It's not super fatty. And you can mix pumpkin with the cream cheese or pumpkin with the string cheese. Dogs love it. It's sweet. It's healthy. That way you're not stuffing an entire Kong with something that's fatty, and, you know, dogs can get pancreatitis if they have this really huge influx of fat. So moving on, I'm going a little over more than I intended to. What time is it? Okay, I'm gonna try to get this last part done real quick. The mouthing, just want to touch on that a little bit. I'm sure you guys are your dogs are doing it. It's natural. They do it for teething. They do it for exploration. They do it when they are telling you to stop what you're doing. It's perfectly normal. What I'd like for you guys to do, there's like 3 levels. There's the little love nips. Second level would be, it hurts a little, but it's not a big deal. And then there's the one that really hurts and it leaves a mark or it breaks the skin. So today we're going to talk about the level 3, I'll call them bites. And what I'd like for you guys to do when you get one of those, is say if you're in there, your hands are in there, you guys are just kind of, interacting. I wouldn't do this at the witching hour when your dogs are completely ramped up. When they're super over aroused, do not attempt this exercise. Get in there with your hands. Your dog gives you one of those hard bites, level 3 bites. And by the way, hair or face is a level 3 bite. I want you to maybe make a little yelp noise. It's not absolutely necessary. Sometimes it helps some dogs when you do that. Sometimes it makes the dog more aroused. You'll have to experiment. Make a little ouch noise, a little yelp noise. Remove yourself from your dog for 10 to 30 seconds. Out of sight, completely gone. Just put yourself behind the door. Wait 10 to 30, I'd say more like about 10 to 20 seconds. Especially no longer than 30 seconds, they lose the association. That's how their brains are not equipped to go much further than that. And they will be like, why is this happening? So you want to make sure that they're making that association. Remove yourself, come back. Try it again. Do it again. If they repeat the same behavior, remove yourself again. This is a punishment, but the only thing that's punishing is that you're removing yourself from the situation. You don't need to add anything harsh to it. You don't need to, yell at your puppy. Not that you guys are going to yell, but, I always just say that because you never know. You don't need to be, your body language just needs to be neutral. We're just calmly going to remove ourselves from our puppy. And the punishment is, I've just lost access to the thing. Do my reinforcement. That's the punishment. So come back, try it again. Second time they do it again, repeat what you did. Third time they do it, I want you to actually put your puppy into a timeout. This is a timeout, by the way. Your puppy needs to go into a timeout. And it do not make it the crate, because like you guys were saying, Celeste, you mentioned that it's only good things happen in the crate. So we don't want to put them in the crate. I want them to associate this with the punishment. Put them in a neutral area, a bathroom that's been puppy proofed, a kitchen area that's been puppy proofed, somewhere where they are contained. Put them in there for 10 to 20 seconds. Let them back out again, try again. The thing about timeouts is you have to be consistent. So that's going to be something I'd like you guys to work on between now and next week. Oh, hold on, my little dog. Lolly's having a nightmare. I'm going to wake her up. Lolly. It's okay. Okay, good girl. She's like, I'm having a nightmare. Is this class ever going to end? So she's going to give me treats. So timeouts have to be consistent. And again, don't do this exercise when your puppy's over aroused. Try to do it when they're calmer. And then just kind of get your hands in there and, move them around, do a little light wrestling with them. And you're kind of setting them up to do the mouthing, but that's so that you can work on it. So right now, the love nips are just the mouthing that's not really a big issue. Right now, what I want you to do with those is to redirect them onto a toy. Just have something to get them interested in instead of you. So we'll check in with that next week about that. Now, just real quickly, we just have 2 other things to cover. How are we going to teach these behaviors? Oh, you have a question?
Yeah, I did. When Pearl is kind of at that hyper overstimulated time, what do I do then, or how do I, should I put her in a timeout when she gets that high energy?
Well,
or
I would try, for one thing, don't reinforce it by interacting with her.
Okay.
What I would try doing is try to do some slow feeding. Maybe try doing something that I just recently read is something where you put your hands on and you start petting them kind of equal to their arousal level. So if they're pretty worked up, you sort of start at their level. So if they're pretty worked up, you start kind of more quickly, and slowly but surely you start slowing it down. And I was reading that they start to feed off of that and sort of start coming down with you. Something to try. I actually haven't tried that, but I was just reading about that as one thing to try. Another is called slow feeding. It's another name, a little game that we play is called helicopter feeding. And what you'll do is let me see if I can use Lolly as an example here. Lolly, let's see, I'm going to get her where you can see. There you go. So what I'm going to do, she's not really worked up. She's kind of the opposite. But what you'll do is you'll put a treat up, and if they start to jump up to it, you'll pull it back. You'll offer it to them again, and then you'll get it. And when they don't pull up, start going towards the food, you quickly get it in there and reward them. So it's kind of a process. Whoops. Now, see, if she didn't try to go up, your puppy will probably be doing this because he's probably going to be all worked up. Well, then you just retreat the food back. Try again. Your puppy's smart. He's going to realize, well, heck, every time I'm like jumping up to get the food, she's pulling it back. And when I stop, when I'm calming down and not going for the food, she gets that food right in there. It takes a little bit to get the hang of it, but the slow feeding. There's another game called the mouse game, and you can put the food on, you put your hand on the floor with food in there. Similar idea. Your puppy's going to be going at your hand, going at your hand. And then when your puppy sort of sits back, you pull a little treat out from under your hand and you give it to them. And so your puppy's going to be like, start getting the hang of it. When I'm like all over the hand and going nuts, nothing. There's nothing. Just the treats are not going to come out of there. And then slowly they're just going to be like, okay, I'm starting to get the hang of it. When I just sort of sit back, food comes to me. And you just like stick your finger in there and roll the food, push the food towards their, on the floor, just towards them, very slowly. One thing you need to do is try to keep yourself more in a, from delivering the treats really fast. We just want to like slowly deliver those treats. So just a couple of ideas. Another thing is just try to get them interested in a Kong or something that will just be a passive calming activity. One thing I forgot to mention with the chews, when they're working on a Kong or a bully stick or a marrow bone, and by the way, I recommend the raw marrow bones. You can get them at Mud Bay and various places because they don't shatter. That's the only really bone that I use with my dogs because I can actually leave them and not worry. They stay intact. Chewing is a passive calm activity. They are being rewarded for remaining calm, and you're not doing anything to add to that. It's happening on its own. Therefore, it's passive. It's happening on its own. It's magic. So they're just laying there calmly being rewarded from their Kong or their bully stick, and endorphins are firing off. So it's a win-win situation. So I try to maybe try that first, Celeste, see if you can get him interested in chewing on something, and then that alone will start the calming process. Okay, so how are we going to teach these behaviors? First, we're going to get the behavior, then we're going to reward the behavior. Let me get this back up. My head's being cut off. Get the behavior, reward the behavior, name the behavior. We're going to get the behavior by luring. We talked about that, moving our dogs into position with a piece of food. Another way we're going to do that is we wait for the behavior and then we mark and reward the behavior when they offer it. That's called capturing, the technical term. And then shaping is where we reward tiny approximations of the final goal. And we'll be using that when we're teaching our dogs to go settle on the mat. So your dog starts walking towards the mat, we'll reward it. Your dog puts one paw on the mat, we'll reward it. Then the criteria is 4 paws on the mat, then we'll reward it. We're eventually rewarding to when the dog is laying on the mat and chilling out. Okay, and then we reward the behavior. Rewards are in the eye of the beholder, the eye or the nose of the beholder. It doesn't matter what you like, it matters what your dog likes. If you call your dog over to you and then you give him this really tight bear hug, you've just punished that because most dogs don't like a tight bear hug. So what you did was you gave him what you like, not what he likes. So next time he's going to think twice about running over to you. Think about what they like. It's just like with your friend, you know, if you buy them a present, you want to buy them what they like, not, you know, secretly, sneakily buy something that you know you're gonna like and that they're gonna have, and then you get to play with. So it's always thinking about what does your dog want. We want to have lots of treats. Think about as many treats as you would need and double that for class. A variety, some really stinky smelling ones, some, middle of the road ones, super high value ones, some middle of the road ones, pieces of hot dog for when you really got to big out the big guns, little pieces of chicken. Something that I use, hold on, I'll grab the bag. This is a big winner called, it's K9 Natural, and it's any of the tripe. There's a few different flavors, and it's an actual food. And I recommend that you get treats that are actually food if you can, for the majority, because we can make our dogs sick because we're going to be rewarding constantly. So if it's more of a food, and this is pure tripe, and tripe, your dogs will flip for it. But I will warn you, it is the smelliest thing you've ever smelled in your life. But that is the reason why it's so popular with the dogs.
Tammy, I have a really quick question about,
Sure.
Quinny's really tiny, and I'm sure her stomach is also really tiny, and so I use her tiny pieces of kibble or break treats into little tiny pieces. But
That's
I'm just
exactly right.
like strategies around tiny
That's
dogs.
exactly right, because we want Quinn to keep training for an extended amount of time, and as soon as he gets full, he's going to not be interested anymore. So for my Chihuahuas, infinitesimal. The rule of it is actually, if your dog can taste it, he's been rewarded. That's all that matters. So I mean, it's almost like you're delivering. At some point, I feel like I'm doing like a homeopathic dose, where it's like so microscopic, but it's big enough for them to taste. So yeah, very, very tiny for Quinn, super, super tiny. Okay. And a little bigger obviously for Pearl, but make it big enough so that it keeps their interest, but that they're still going to remain interested, and not get satiated, so that their motivation is gone. But yeah, exactly. I break the kibble into pieces for my dogs too, Xenia. So it's a great way to go about it. That's, and kibble that can be broken into pieces is a big selling point for me. If you can't break them into pieces, I have in Chihuahuas, I don't get it. So anyway, get behavior, reward the behavior. Then we name the behavior. Dogs respond really well to our body language. They evolved watching us. So they respond easier to hand signals, you'll find. But they can learn the verbal very easily. There's just a process that we teach that. Then we repeat in multiple environments with all sorts of different distractions. Dogs attend to specifics more than we do, and it's a little harder for them to generalize than us. So we have to make sure that we do a behavior in all sorts of different environments so that they really learn it. They might learn it in the living room. You take them out in the backyard, and elements of your living room have actually become part of the sit. Do you see what I mean? So then they're standing in the backyard and they're like, I have no idea what you want. They're not being stubborn. They are not being stubborn. And this is a common thing that people think. And I want to bust that myth. I used to think it too. They actually are not capable of stubborn. The evidence suggests that that's not something in their makeup. So it means they're nervous. They don't want to do it in that environment. It means they're not capable of doing it. It means they don't know it well enough at that moment in time. So we just have to keep working on it until they know it, and they can do it. When they can do it in multiple environments, then we can truly say they know this behavior. But until then, they're not just being obstinate. We all anthropomorphize, and it helps us relate to dogs more, but there's a point sometimes when it actually can be detrimental to a dog. So we have to figure out that fine line not to cross when we start equating certain human things with dogs, because it's to their detriment. Okay, last thing, marker. A marker you guys are welcome to use a clicker, or you're welcome to use a marker word. Have any of you guys had any experience with clickers or markers in general? Any kind of a marker in general? Okay. If you want to use a clicker, when we were doing in-person classes, we provide them, but obviously that's not possible. We're not doing that. So you're welcome to go buy a clicker, or you can use a marker word. And the best marker word that I would suggest to you to use, and I'm going to ask you to use it right now because we're going to do just some quick marker practice and then we're going to call it. What I'm going to ask you to do is use the word yes. And what a marker is, to explain to you what a marker is, a marker, and instead of going a clicker or a marker word, from now on, I'm just going to refer to it as the marker. And it will either be a clicker or a marker word, just to streamline things. So what a marker does is it bridges the gap between when your dog does the behavior, say if it's a sit, the moment they put their bottom on the ground, it bridges the gap between the moment they put their bottom on the ground and the moment you deliver that treat to them. So think about it. So you ask for a sit, your dog puts his bottom on the ground, you're going for your treats, maybe it takes you a minute to get your treat out, you turn around, your dog is doing God knows what, you deliver the treat, they've just been rewarded for doing who knows what. It could be anything. It could be something you want them to do, but it most likely is not a sit at this point in time, being a puppy. They don't have duration. You're lucky if you just get a pop up, a down pop up. So a marker is a bridge between those two things. Think of it as a camera. It captures that moment. So we're going to do a little marker practice. I'm going to grab a ball, and then I think we're going to be done. So sorry we're going a little over. It happens with orientation. Okay, so the moment I catch the ball, I'm going to put this down a little bit so you can see my hand a little bit more. So when I actually catch the ball in my hands, that is going to be the moment your puppy has just done the behavior, or for example, to be specific, put his little bottom on the ground. And that is when I want you to use your marker. And again, for right now, we're going to do the marker word, yes. And you'll have the choice to either get a clicker or use the marker word. It's up to you. And so I want you to get some practice on marking. So when it hits my hand, that's what I want you to mark. And then I want you to have some imaginary treats. And I want you to reach for the imaginary treat after you mark it and deliver it to your imaginary puppy. So here we go.
Yes.
Okay, reach, treat. One more time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. So you guys get the idea. It's that moment when they do the behavior, whatever that behavior is. So your homework for next week is going to be get your puppy in a quiet area, have your clicker or your marker word, say the marker word or your clicker, and reach and deliver a treat to your puppy. It's as simple as that. They can be doing nothing. And it doesn't matter. Well, it does matter. If they're doing something you don't want them to do, then don't mark it. The one thing you need to remember is when you say that marker word or click, you always have to deliver a treat. We have a contract with our dogs to always deliver that treat because we're creating a association between the clicker, between the marker and a treat. Again, the associations. So that eventually they are going to work towards getting that marker because that marker will mean a treat. So if you don't deliver a treat, you're broken down the whole foundation of what we're trying to build. So it doesn't matter if you're little boy, what's your kid's name? I'm sorry, I hate to talk to him in third person. I can't hear you. Let's see. I'm lost you. Oh, Jasper. Some reason the sound is gone. So Jasper, if you grab the clicker, if you were to have a clicker and you click, 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 you have to deliver treat, 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 treat to Pearl. Yeah. So just keep that in mind. So that's the basic idea. So what I want you to do for next week is charge your clicker. We call it charging your clicker, because what you're doing is you're building up that association between the clicker and the treat. Just do quiet area, no distractions. Do the marker, the word or the clicker, deliver the treat. Try not to have your treats so that your puppy can see them. Try to have your hands up or behind your back, or have the treat sitting up. Mark, reach, treat. Mark, reach, treat. Do this 2 or 3 times a day for a couple of minutes. And your dog is going to know, he's going to get that within probably the first 2 sessions. And just do that a few times between now and next week. One other homework I'd like you to do, and by the way, your homework is in the welcome. The way to access your homework is in the welcome email. It'll have your passwords, and it'll have for what you to do. Just to say, the homework doesn't always exactly match up to what I'm teaching, but it mostly does. So if you see something in the homework, you're like, that doesn't exactly how she taught me how to do it. It won't be too far off, so don't worry about it. We need to really update that homework to be a little more precise, but for the most part, it's going to match up. So, so your homework will be there. So work on charging your clicker. And there's something called the name game. And what I'd like you to do is say your puppy's name. And when they turn towards you, turn their head towards you, mark and treat them. It's very simple. Say their name, orient towards you, mark and treat. And that is just basically an attention getting exercise. It's going to play out well when you're working on recall, when you're working on leash walking skills. It across the board, it's something. And it's just getting them to recognize their name and pay attention to you. So I think we covered everything. Bring to class a mat that's big enough for your puppy to stretch out on, and will last for the whole 6 weeks. And that's something that you definitely need to consider, Celeste, since you've got a Mastiff, that will still accommodate your puppy to be able to stretch out on, because we're going to do some mat targeting skills. A mat, treats, your puppy exercised, pottied, hungry puppy. I think that's everything. If I think of something else, I'll email you. But try not to feed your puppy breakfast, but if you really feel your puppy's got to have something to eat, just give them half of their rations, or like a quarter, because we want them to be hungry. Luckily, this class is early in the morning, so it's a little bit easier to do that. Go ahead, Celeste.
What do you mean for a mat? Do you mean like a bed?
Yeah, it can be a towel.
Okay.
It can be a bath mat.
Okay.
Just something that you can lay on the floor that is comfortable for your dog to lay on. And it's nice for it to be portable, because what we like to do is be able to get your puppy to the point where if they just go and settle this on their own, you can actually take that to the vet to make them more comfortable. You can take it to the cafe if it's an outdoor seating, the brewery. You can take them places, and you can lay this mat down and they'll vacuum right on that, because we've taught them to do that. And if you teach them on something portable, it's just easier to carry around. So I think that's everything. If you guys have any questions, just shoot me an email, and it's great to meet you guys. Oh, you have another question? Go ahead.
Yeah, so are the rest of the classes in person, or are the rest of the classes over Zoom?
This is all Zoom. This
Okay.
particular session is.
Sure.
With this particular, what do you call it? Just round of classes is all going to be Zoom. And every Thursday or Friday, I'll be sending out, I'm going to say Thursday. That way, if every Thursday, I'm going to send out your Zoom invite. So if by Friday evening, we'll say, and you have not received your invite from me, get in touch with me, because something has gone wrong, and then I will resend it. Okay, take care, guys. Great to meet you. Hi, Jasper.
Thank you. It's good to meet you all.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.